In this part 2 of the Excel tables for beginners, we will look at the syntax of the formulas used in Excel tables, how to translate the most used formulas in regular tables to the new syntax, just so you don't get lost. Hi guys, welcome to the Lazy Productive channel, where we think you can achieve more just by mastering simple tools. Let's take back our table and redo our simple multiplication. Quantity times the price. By default, when you create an Excel table and you reference a cell in the table, Excel will use the new table syntax. But just know that you can use the regular one, and both of them work. Instead of selecting the cells, I can type C6 times D6, and it works. You can even make it so that Excel uses the regular referencing as a default when selecting cells. To do that, go to File, Options, Formulas, and then check Use Table Names in Formulas. So now, when you select a cell, by default it will be the cell, C6 in this example. But again, you can type the name of the table. Both of them work. It is just a matter of default settings and which type of referencing Excel should use as a default when you select the cells using the mouse. I personally prefer to use the new structured referencing, and I will show you why. Okay, let's switch it back and let's type a formula manually so it really sinks in. Let's just do an equal formula to make it really simple. Open a bracket, add the @ sign, name the column, and close the bracket. Here we go. Well, there is also a small difference in the syntax when your header name contains a space in it. Then you will need to add another set of brackets that wraps the column name first. Just don't get scared off. It is just a habit, and you can still just select the cell using the mouse, which is what we usually do. But it is interesting to understand the syntax, and this is what we just learned. One other thing I have to mention is that when you select another row, Excel automatically switches to the regular syntax. But normally, we usually don't need that in tables. We usually use the same row. Okay, now let's move out of the table and select the cell. Notice that it adds the table name. And also keep in mind that when you type the formula manually, wherever you are, Excel will still help you out when you reference the table first. Now, what about absolute and relative referencing? Well, in Excel tables, when you drag a formula to the right, to the left, or the bottom, the formula reference will move accordingly. As you can see here, it moved from the quantity to the price column. And if we drag it down, it uses the new row. This is true for all the data in your table, except for headers. Notice that now it references the table even if we are in the table, and adds between brackets pound headers. Well, technically it is called a structured specifier, and there are 5 of them. But don't worry about it for now, just understand the syntax. Then you have a comma, another set of brackets, and the column name. And when we drag it down, the formula won't change. But if we drag it to the right, the column name changes, which is good because this is what we usually do in tables. I'm showing this simple formula, but this is true for any complex formula you might be using. Okay, one last thing that we would usually do in regular tables. How do we lock a column? To do a Vlookup, for example. Well, this one is less explicit. Let's show you first how to select range. Like for columns, when you hover over the header name of your table, there is a small arrow that appears. You can either click once to select only the data of the column, or click a second time to include the header name as well. But usually we only need the data. So let's undo and just use the data. Again, it only uses the data. And when you use it in a formula, and when you have multiple formulas in your workbook, that saves a lot of resources for Excel. There will be less lag and the file size will decrease to a certain extent. Now let's use it in a Vlookup to categorize our articles. We are looking for the article reference in this other table that just magically appeared. We will use it to retrieve the category, and just for fun, we will use it without even looking at this new table. So it's Vlookup, select the search cell, comma, and add the table name where we want to get the data from. We can just reference the table and leave it like that, and this means select the whole table. Then to specify the column number, we can just use the column formula, which returns the column number of the column name, which is actually the category of the article, and finish up the formula. I will come back in later videos to how to use tables in formulas, but this is not the purpose of this. Let's go back to our objective, which is how to lock the column of the search item. For now, just trust me, this formula works, but when we drag it to the right, the column name shifts to the right as well. So how to lock it? You will have to use the range syntax by putting the name of the column you want to lock in the first and last column of the range. Well, it looks like a range of the same cell. Now, the column is locked, but you can move to the next row, which is exactly what we want. So with that, I believe that you can find your marks with the new Excel table syntax. But remember that you can still use the old regular syntax, or a combination of both. In the next part, we'll go to the good stuff now. We will move out of the table and see how easy it is to reference some elements of the table and use them in our calculations. See ya!